Hey ya! I'm back from England, back in my wine cellar to record 2 episodes a week for the P1 Pixel podcast. And I want to start this episode with a big thank you. I have never received so much feedback and also 100% positive feedback on an episode like in the last 3-4 days. So many people said that they loved the episode on English wine tourism, on the approach that the English wine industry is currently following, and said thank you, invited me to tastings and wanted to repost. And I love this, guys. I mean, England is an absolutely amazing wine country with great products, with dedicated people. And if you don't know what I'm currently talking about, listen to episode 209 when it comes to wine tourism in England and the summary of our wine trip and of my last 3 weeks in England. This week's weekly update is packed with 13 different articles and news from last week. Most of them are focused on very, very big brands: Diageo, Barefoot, 19 Crimes, Concha y Toro, and we start with the update on the 2024 harvest in Europe. Have fun! Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 210, the weekly update on November 16th. First of all, happy birthday to my fellow friend Tom. When you are listening to this, we have celebrated his birthday last night with a bottle of alcohol-free sparkling tea. So right now, he already had his surprise, so we can talk about it. But we start this week's episode with the Harvest Update 2024 from Central Europe. And we were talking about several countries, facts, and also weather events that happened. And to sum this up, in total, when we look on Europe, the European wine market saw a decline of 3% in 2024, summing up at around 144 million hectoliters. And when we look at the big players, Italy, Spain, and France, Italy gained 7% compared to 2023. Spain gained 18%, even though we talked about drought, we talked about severe floodings. The center of Spain in Castilla-La Mancha, which is responsible for almost 50% of the grape growing, drove the production in Spain by 23% alone, summing up in total at 18% plus. And France, we already talked about this, saw a decline by almost 22% compared to 2023. Several reasons for that: mildew, hail, late frosts, and also the grub up of some vineyards in the area around Bordeaux and in southern France in general. 2 more regions are mentioned in the graph in this article, and one is Germany, which saw a decline of almost 9% in total, and Portugal, which saw a decline in 8%. And I mean, people already estimated, especially for Germany, that there will be a decline. We were talking about 3 to 5%. The current estimation is minus 8%. And the main result is also wrapped up in an article by Miningers International this week. A very short one, actually, but it has some very powerful numbers in it. Germany is currently sitting on an excessive wine stock of 12.4 million hectoliters, meaning this is the wine that is currently in the cellars that hasn't been sold yet, and it was 2.8% higher than in the previous year. Just to clarify that, it's not only German wine, it's also international wine. Most of it is from the European Union and only 3% come from non-European countries. So we're not only talking about German wine, we're talking about European wine in general. The share of white is 63% and the red is 37%. So we have too much wine in the country, especially in Germany in that case. But this is, Germany's mentioned in that article, but this is the case for almost every country every wine country, because everybody is struggling in selling their wines. We saw a decline in consumption of over 2% in the last year, and there are also several reasons for that. We had this on a previous episode, and what was also on the news this week, which basically accounts for a decline in Germany as well. The Federal Center of Health Education in Germany has published a study looking at the last 40 years wine consumption in Germany. And there are many, many very interesting and also important numbers in this article. And I guess the most important one for us is that the regular alcohol consumption among the minors between 12 and 17 saw a decline by over 2/3. Meaning right now only 12.4% are drinking alcohol between the age of 12 and 17, coming from 36%. And the average age of the first consumption of alcohol rose from 14.1 years of age to 15.1. So 1 year later, most of our youngers discover alcohol for the first time. And I guess one of the biggest things in this study is that the so-called binge drinking, so the heavy consumption of alcohol, summing up in 5 drinks or more per one night, also saw a very, very big decline. And I mean, I'm old enough to remember times where you were allowed to smoke in discos and clubs, and we were served 99-cent cups with hard alcohol, with hard liquor, like, I don't know, Bacardi Cola and stuff like that. So we were carrying those tablets with 15 cups on it. And a couple of years later, in the early 2000s, people had these flat rate parties where you just paid an entrance fee once, I don't know, 25, 30 euro, and then you were able to drink whatever you wanted. And this pushed the heavy alcohol consumption, which is basically bad, but of course, especially the younger ones, they usually want to be revoluters. They want to test their limits. And of course, it's always been something to be cool, or at least to feel cool. And there is a huge decline in this as well. Basically, this sums up in the trend we have already talked about a couple of times. There is a decline in consumption. We will see a decline in production in the future as well. Just to answer on that, the focus on premium. We will have some brands in this episode later on that also say more focus on premium, resulting in higher quality, lower consumption, lower production, the grubbing up of vineyards, and maybe solving the problem of too much wine in the cellars of the retailers, the traders, and the producers. The good thing, especially for the wine industry, is that we are about to enter the Christmas sale time. And usually this is not only the time for wine, it is especially the time for sparkling wine. And you know, if you are a loyal listener, that I'm a big fan of IWSR. The statistics are absolutely amazing. And this article shows what will be happening with the sparkling wine sales in the holidays period, especially in the US. And I loved this graph. If you are watching right now, what we see is the comparison of 2019 to 2024 of the sales, the annual sales of Prosecco and Champagne. And usually it is what it is. You have a peak of sparkling wine sales, usually in December, which account for 20% of the annual sales in total. This accounts for Champagne and for Prosecco. But when you compare Champagne to Prosecco, you see for Champagne that it is declining from 2022 ongoing. So the graph looks a bit like a banana. And when you have a look at the graph for Prosecco, you see a constant rise since 2019 over the annual production in general, and then also with the peaks. So the peaks in Prosecco are getting higher. The general sales are higher. And compared to Champagne, the peaks are lower and the purchases are declining. So Prosecco is on the rise. Champagne is declining. I mean, this is what we have already talked about in this podcast also several times, but Prosecco is definitely the winner in the American market, in the UK market as well. Looking forward to almost 1 billion bottles of production next year. And maybe the trend will keep rising. Why is that? I mean, Champagne is very expensive. This is one problem. The second thing is that people discover that if you want to have bubbles, you don't have to buy the most expensive stuff. We talked about Cremant being on the rise, Cava, similar, because they are all high quality sparkling. I mean, this is not only high quality, there's also entry level stuff, but people are discovering more and more that it doesn't have to be champagne to have a good glass of bubbles. And then, of course, the inflation hit, and there will also be a change in the future, I think, when it comes to the imports to the US, because Trump won the election and he was already communicating that there will be duty fees, especially for non-American products from Central Europe. And we are talking about wine and spirits. And of course, this will also account for Prosecco. But generally, people are more interested in that. Prosecco made amazing successes with marketing campaigns in the US and in the UK. And this all results in declining champagne sales and rising Prosecco sales. Talking about sparkling wine from Italy. In Germany, we would say, now we have the salad, but the correct translation would be the fats in the fire. There is a very successful German brand that is produced and published by Rotkäppchen Mumm. This is called Doppio Passo. Doppio Passo stands for Italian lifestyle, and it's one of the most successful red wine in Germany, Doppio Passo Red, which is basically a Primitivo-based red, very soft, very polished, easy accessible, easy drinking. It's not my personal style of wine, and it's, of course, because it sits on the shelf for around 8 to 10 euro, of cheaper quality, but it's a huge success. People love this brand and love this product. And in March, I tasted the alcohol-free version of it for the first time. And right now, Doppio Passo is going the next step, is making the next move when they polished their look and feel of the labels of their Proseccos, because they also have Proseccos. I would say it looks a bit more classy, of higher quality, more premium. And secondly, they launched an alcohol-free sparkling 0.0, which is made by Rotkäppchen Mumm in Germany, but the base is Glera grapes, meaning you basically have the same base wine like a Prosecco. It cannot be called Prosecco anyway, but because it's produced in Germany and it's alcohol-free, and you're not allowed to use origins when it comes to the production of alcohol-free products, at the moment at least. But this is big because of, you cannot use the word Prosecco, but saying this is a sparkling alcohol-free alternative coming from northern Italy, made with Glera grapes. In my opinion, this is very big. It's very, very smart to launch this. It would be very interesting to see the marketing communication for that. And in addition, if this product will be in a small portion successful, like the big brand is Doppio Passo, this is huge for Rotkäppchen Mumm anyway. And Rotkäppchen Mumm, Henkel Freshness, the big players are also the ones who are driving the alcohol-free consumption, because when you are already an advocate of your favorite brand, if you're a fan of Rotkäppchen, if you're a fan of Mumm, of Deinhardt, of Freshness, and you don't want to drink alcohol at one night or at a party and you want to bring a bottle, you take the same brand you're usually drinking, but alcohol-free. And Rotkäppchen Mumm is producing around 200 million bottles of Sekt each year. And I would say in a couple of years, we will see 5 million bottles of alcohol-free sparkling. Maybe they have already reached it, but unfortunately, it's not able to find some numbers on that. This is the future, one part of the future. I'm saying that because we had a talk, Luca Dams from Senso and me, 2 days ago on a B2B roadshow, showcasing, I would say, blueprints for wine tourism in Germany to the area of Baden-Württemberg. Organized by the Wine Tourism Marketing Agency, we were invited to give a talk on the alcohol-free market, on the perspective on that, and also about the first alcohol-free wine fest we organized in May this year. And I was so surprised how positive the reactions were, not only on our talk, but also on the topic in general, the interest, because most of them, they earn their money with wines. It was people working in the wine industry or even producing their own wines, but they get that this is a business opportunity and that they have to react on the change in consumer behavior. Doppio Passo knows this. They have a lot of experience in the brand and the company, Rotkäppchen Mumm, and this is a very, very good, logical move, even though many of, especially the higher involved people, won't like this product, I guess. When we talk about smart marketing, we stay in Italy, if you can say it like this. Yeah, we say it like this. We stay in Italy. The Consorzio of Chianti Classico has launched a free online course for wine professionals, for wine lovers. You just go online, you register, and then you can go through 5 different modules to learn more about the region, about wine, about olive oil, and the Black Rooster. Why is that smart? One, more people get attracted by Chianti Classico, they learn more about this, and they educate themselves on it. Secondly, the ability to find advocates for your brand, in that case Chianti Classico, the wine style DSOG, is so much higher. And thirdly, there are several regions that have already done that. For example, Portugal has done it a couple of years ago. We talked about the learning app of Chablis. This is smart, guys. Re-education, you learn more about the country, you learn more about the style, you can combine this with wine tourism, and you find more and more advocates for your wine region that will talk about this, they will share this, and it will attract new customers. It's amazing. And of course, in parallel, you can do you can give some awareness on the brand, on the quality, and also on the difference of Chianti Classico, what it's known for, and for example, the differentiation to, heavier reds from southern Italy or from Spain or something like this. Super cool thing. So if you are interested in Chianti Classico, link is in the show notes. Watch out for the Chianti Classico online course. Enjoy it and get your personal certificate afterwards. And you can print it, you can put it on LinkedIn and try to impress more people you want to learn with, or just show that you are interested in Chianti. The next 2 articles are more focused on sustainability and the influence on the CO2 footprint of things we are doing or companies in the wine industry are doing. The first is an article that is talking about the Napa Valley wine train. This train is running through the area, visiting wineries, and also giving you the possibility to taste wines. So there is a sommelier flight where you can have quite expensive, very big wines and enjoy them. And what Napa Valley Wine Train is currently doing, they will invest $11 million to have low emission locomotives. Let's call it trains. And the interesting thing about this is they are set to be nearly silent and odorless. And this quote I have just given to you was mentioned 3 or 4 times, always quote unquote. So maybe there was no final expression or explanation for that. At least it said that it will definitely be vastly lower carbon emissions by that train. It's also nearly silent, so there's no disturbing of people living in the area. And what is maybe also interesting, especially for the tech nerds and our listeners, a part of these 11 million, $3.9 million are granted from the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust. And the other 6.4 are carried by the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements. The story also bringing more awareness for wine tourism. I don't think that Napa Valley has to do that, actually. But if you are a fan of trains, and there are several trains in the world running through wine regions, I guess one of the most famous ones is also in South Africa or in Australia. And Napa Valley has its own, and it's right now looking into a greener future. And talking about a greener future, one of the biggest wine producer on the planet, Concha y Toro, joined the Sustainable Wine Roundtable, and with this, it's the biggest company that has ever joined that circle. The idea of this roundtable is to reduce the carbon footprint of packaging. So basically, in that case, bottling and of course also wrapping, generally wine packaging. And Concha y Toro produces around 384 million bottles per year. I guess one of the biggest brands most of us might know is Casillero del Diablo. They joined this circle and will reduce their bottle weight to 420 grams on average by 2026. So in 2 years, they will reduce most of their bottles, I would guess, by around 20% of weight, because usually a bottle sits around 550 to 600 grams, depending on the still wine bottle, and the sparkling wine bottles are even heavier. This could also be a blueprint for other brands, other companies to join this. I like this very, very much because it shows that at least people see and take the responsibility looking for a better future, a greener future. This is not greenwashing. It's a first step in the right direction. And hopefully more companies, more bigger companies will join that consortium, that roundtable. We will keep you updated on that. Of course, I mean, Concha y Toro has been in the news for 4 years now with a big sustainable focus. They have been certified as a B Corp company in 2021 and are now looking forward to the recertification in 2025. By the way, first Chilean company on the planet ever that gained this certification. Hopefully there will follow many, many more in the future. We stay with big brands, and in the last weeks we had Diageo, LVMH, Pernod Ricard and many other big players on the planet on the news saying they will focus on premium. And Diageo has formed a luxury group which will basically be the umbrella corporation for their 15 premium and super premium brands to concentrate the power for marketing and sales on this luxury segment. The key focus is on accelerating the growth of brands that retail $100 or more, but they will also include brands with at least €35 plus. So we're talking about brands like Don Julio, Ciroc, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. Johnny Walker is included in that. There are many whiskey companies from Scotland included. The focus of this group will be in the big hub cities in the world where basically luxury consumption is concentrated. One will be in Singapore, London will be on that map, New York, of course, as well. And especially with this focus, they try to create a new narrative on luxury in the market. They will push the focus more and more. Maybe they will acquire some other companies as well in the future. At least this shows even more the focus of the big players, in that case Diageo, on premium and super premium. After the investment in the Napa wine train and Diageo's premium focus, we are talking about another very, very big investment in recent days. Heineken will invest $45 million in a research and development center in Central Europe. And the main driver will be the development of their A yeast, which is said to be responsible for the very unique taste of Heineken. And in addition, for the development of their alcohol-free products. Heineken 0.0 is one of the main products driving the alcohol-free space, especially when it comes to beer. And this research and development center in Central Europe in the Netherlands will be focused on those two topics. It will be opened in mid-2025 and will employ staff from across 12 countries. So one more beer brand showcasing the interest and also the success of alcohol-free products, especially when it comes to 0.0 versions. There are not many beers available at 0.0, but more and more are coming to the market because there is a difference, and the peer group is way bigger when you don't have any alcohol on the label. And Guinness, Heineken, Corona are just 3 of the ones that have recently communicated that they are going all in on 0.0 production, and in that case also research and development. And talking about beer, the biggest beer club in Central Europe is called Beer52. They have thousands of subscribers. Same accounts for their wine club, Wine52. And I was lucky and met the main guy who's responsible, who's in charge for purchasing all the products last year at Pro Wine. Super nice guy. And Beer52 recently announced that right now there will be a Whiskey 52 in the future. And just to explain the model short and briefly, you have a monthly subscription, you pay 20, 30, 40 quid, whatever, for what you are looking for. In that case of beer, you get 4, 6, 8 cans of beer monthly. Same with wine. And in that case, with whiskey, you pay 35 quid a month and receive a very special bottle of whiskey. And they asked the CEO, is there any potential for other spirits in the future? And they said, I think with beer, wine, and whiskey, we are very, very focused and we can play a long we can play around a lot. So there are no plans currently for any other spirits or drinks in the future. And I mean, this is huge, guys. We are talking about 100,000 plus subscriptions in total. It's not like your personal wine club with 200 or 300 people that get a box every 3 months. This is huge. And right now they're focusing on whiskey. Maybe it's easier because they're sitting, or at least they're addressing their subscription to the UK market, and they have a big history, especially when it comes to Scotch and whiskey. We will see how this will turn out. In my opinion, very impressive. The first time I heard that, I was like, who is paying a monthly fee for a subscription? But people are interested in that. It's easier for them. You get it shipped. You don't have to walk outside and find your next big beer, wine, whiskey to try. And we're talking about products, and especially let's say an affordable price range for the subscriptions between 10 and 35 pounds a month. I made an episode on wine clubs in that case, and we talked about the huge success and also the history of wine clubs in England and also in the US, and that especially the Central European market is not super open to this kind of concept. When I was wrapping up our wine trip to England in episode 209, I also talked about that because there are wine clubs or adoption models in almost every winery. Of course, smaller amount, smaller dimension, but at least the model is something that people get in the country. And in Germany, in France, in Austria, they struggle with that because it's all about the safety you have with your online purchase. And sometimes I have the feeling that most of the people just don't want to be surprised anymore with products they get shipped. Maybe the people who are super high involved and are very, very curious about a specific category. But in England, in the UK, this works pretty good. And the last two articles of this week are dedicated to the celebrity corner once again. And it's not about the celebrities in that time specifically. It's more about the marketing move behind it and how smart, how big these deals really are. And the biggest one for me, not only this week, maybe in the last couple of weeks, was a collaboration of Simone Biles, a gymnast, a very famous gymnast from the US, that has partnered with Barefoot Wine. Barefoot Wine is the official sponsor of the NFL. Simone is the wife of the Green Bay Packers player Jonathan Owens. And what did the NFL do? They said, in cooperation with Barefoot Wine, we offer an exclusive event where if you win our raffle, you and your 3 best friends can have kind of a pre-game meetup behind the scenes, backstage, how is it called officially? Pre-game sideline access before setting into Barefoot's bandwagon box suite. So kind of premium access to the game with Simone. So why is this smart right now? We have talked about this in the Taylor and Travis story. It is so smart to bring 2 even sometimes totally opposite peer groups together under the umbrella of one brand. Saying the NFL manages to bring all the fans of Simone, of sports, of gymnasts into the world of the NFL and vice versa under the umbrella of Barefoot. So Barefoot is the sponsor saying, we unite everyone, dear Simone fans, come over, watch the game next to Simone, watch football and have a glass of Barefoot with you. And I mean, the same happened with Taylor and Travis, where millions of Swifties met millions of NFL fans once again. So the NFL seems to be quite smart when it comes to marketing. And I mean, the Super Bowl is probably the most interesting, the most attractive, and also the most expensive platform for marketing. But this does not only happen in the night of the first Sunday of February, this happens the whole year. And last but not least, a brand that is basically part of, I would say, 20% of every podcast episode on Pinot and Pixel, 19 Crimes. 19 Crimes has launched a new wine together with Snoop Dogg, once again expanding the Cali wine collection. We talked about Cali Red, and right now there is a Cali Smooth. So it's a more polished one with fresh fruits, maybe low in alcohol, low in tannins, but at least the feeling of just sipping and relaxing. This is how Snoop describes it. And again, branding on point, communication on point. I guess Snoop is one of the biggest icons, especially when it comes to marketing of alcoholic products. And he has been almost everywhere this year: sports events, spirits, wine, music, of course, on many, many conferences. And he's one of the few people who are doing so many things right. And this partnership with 19 Crimes, once more, is it's just amazing. If you have a testimonial like him on your brand, and I'm pretty sure that he's also giving creativity into the process when it comes to the designing of the brand, of the product, that it's just a win-win for both sides. It's even a win-win-win because the people who are interested in Snoop and or the brand are also winning. So you can say about the product whatever you want, because I mean, it's not super high quality. I would say you can say that 19 Crimes is basically doing entry-level mass production. There are also premium versions, but still, it's not what you would expect from a super high premium wine, but it's easy accessible. It's available everywhere, duty-free, supermarkets, retailers, special retailers, and they just know how to do marketing. So use this as an inspiration. Be creative. Have a freaking great weekend. And see you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.